Well, here we are, June 25th. It's Friday. This session is going to be about ransomware. At least that's where we'll start out. And if the discussion is anything like what we've been talking about the last few minutes before we get started, it's going to range into things that relate to the economy in general. But we're clearly discussing a topic that's in the news. I mean, here's the front page of the Economist, Broad Bandits, and the first ad is about finding ransomware with AI. We're finding ransomware with Ling. So Ling, you've got a background in working with companies that have been exposed or want to prevent being exposed. My introduction to the topic, and part of the reason we're doing this session today, is I was on the golf course a couple of weeks ago and talking to a fellow who runs a paint store in Stony Plain, and he'd been hacked by a ransomware attack, and it cost him $11,000 to get his files back. Well, when I made that reference to that, Ling, you point out that it may have been foolish that he got attacked in the first place, but maybe even more foolish that he paid $11,000 to get out. So it's over to you to give us confidence that we have some place in the future and that you can help us become more aware of how to survive.
Okay, cool. Can I start sharing my screen?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm actually IT professional, and I am actually certified information technology security professional. So today I'm not really going to talk about a lot of security, but more specific to ransomware and how you're going to deal with it, how you're going to protect yourself from a prevention and a protection point of view. Okay. It's really just focus on ransomware and a related item to ransomware. Okay. So some background. So first of all, this discussion on internet, people think ransomware is cool. It's a technology. It's a Robin Hood. It's not. It's a crime. Okay. So we need to understand ransomware. It's a crime as blood as any other crime. They are there to bloodily just to get money from other people. They don't care about anything else. So if you think ransomware is a romantic or something else, no, they are not. They are totally just a cool crime, like anything else, and only for money, nothing else. Okay. And cybersecurity is actually a huge, huge market. According to some study, it will become $192 billion by 2028. Okay, and it's leading by healthcare, cybersecurity, insurance, IoT, and also cybersecurity is everywhere. People think, well, it's only ransomware. It's not. It's everywhere. Ransomware has a different form. What we focus on today is basically, encrypt your file and demand for ransom, but this other form as well. We're not going to touch it today. Okay. So, and of course, it's because the banking industry, financial industry, and e-commerce online, it's actually bring more and more people online and become a more and more vulnerable, and also become a more and more lucrative target for people who are involved in ransomware. Okay. So it's a significant risk for SME or home users. Now, for large organizations, they usually can afford to hire high-price people for protections, for adding layer and layer and layer protections. But for home users, for SMEs, people probably won't be able to afford it. And plus, what I found is normal home users taking the attitude is, well, I never been hit by ransomware, so I'm fine. So I do what I do, and then this one day they got hit. They don't know where they hit them, and they don't know how to get out of that. So a general awareness and be prepared to understand how to prevent, how to protect yourself, I think is the best topic going forward for SME and home users. So ransomware today, it's become heavens for hackers and crackers, and due to lack of regulations, and also there's no really effective method to counter with this threat. I mean, so you all probably see the news from colonial pipelines. Even US federal government tries to back them up, but it's very difficult to stop this kind of attacks, okay? And estimate global global loss due to cybercrime, it's about $1 trillion last year. And that's a lot of money. Okay. And CISSP, which is called, stand for Certified Information System Security Professional by ISC2 Consortium. It's actually the top paid IT professional since 2014 in every country, every single country, including India, United States. IT professional with a project manager, maybe let's say 5-year experience, would probably take $90,000 salary. But the same experience IT professional can easily make $150,000 a year, just as a reference, okay? So, and I also want to add a disclaimer. There are many, many different ways to deal with ransomware. So what I'm going to be showing you is the way I do it. So other professionals may come to say, well, I don't do that way. That's good because everyone were doing things differently. And the things I'm also going to show you today, we have no association with them. I'm not representing the products. I'm only showing you the products I use for myself, okay, and for my customer. So a couple of things. We start talking about some security term. And the reason for that is relevant is because those are the relevant items from related to ransomware. So first of all, there's something called security, the basic security item, password. So when we log into computers, log into certain files, log into site, we are using password. So password is the basic security to protect any kind of computers, online results, and anything else. And we are using password. So we all know what this password means. But password also have a different strengths and complexities. Now, this table showing you is actually a publication from one of the security site showing you how fast people can crack your password. So basically, if you have a password with 8 characters and up and down, so we take 22 minutes to crack. And that's using something called brute force, means using computer's power, they can guess in your password, how many million times a minute or second, and they can probably crack into your systems, okay? So if you think a password is secured, and my advice to you, and it's considered password, it's not secure at all. So the first time you use your password, somebody else already know it. That's how secure it is, okay? So if you think you can use a password to protect anything your bank account, your password, your computers, think again, okay? The reason I'm saying that is because majority, 62% of a ransomware attack is through password. Okay, using different methods to get your password and then attack you. That's the basic fundamental. So close to two-thirds of a ransomware attack is through password. Okay, different ways to get your password and attack your results. Okay, so that's the first item. It's called password. Now we all see movies how easy it is to crack passwords, and the smart hackers, they can probably, using something called dictionaries and social engineering. And so basically, let's put it that way. If someone wants to get your password, they will get it. Either way, they will get it. So if you think, well, my password is very complex, it's very strong, no, somebody can get it. And literally, I can take something called key logger. It's almost like a USB dongle. Come to your computer, plug in your USB port and your USB keyboard, and then I can record every single key stroke on your computers. You don't even know it. I can put it on your computer for a couple of days, take it off. I can know every single thing you type into your computers. Okay, and the newest way to do that is I can in distance away, I can using a laser and detect your Windows wave to know how many keys you are attached on your keyboard, therefore to guess how complex is your password. So there are many, many, many ways to do that, okay? And so relate to password, and then it's something called two-factor authentication. I'm pretty sure all of you probably use that because the bank is required. Facebook use that. Almost every major online site use that. Most of the companies give you as options. You can choose to use it. You can choose not to use it. And so password is something called what I know. And what you know is what other people know. Okay, so there's no secret in IT, in the modern IT space. Pretty much, if you use your password, someone else is going to find out how you use your password. So knowledge-based password means nothing. Now, the second items related to password is something called what I have. Usually it's using some kind of cipher meaning. So means that you have to possess something physically to be able to use as another fact to validate who you are. Okay, the Bible is probably the oldest ways to do this kind of cipher. Why Bible? Well, Bible is the most available document publicly uh, available everywhere. So it's a use Bible to be using as a either fixed cipher or a rolling cipher. It just makes more sense. And we all saw movies, the German Enigma machines in World War II, and that's another type of what you have is only if you have this kind of machine with some kind of rolling table, and you can decipher information. Okay, and that's the concept of what I have. Now, token, probably all of us probably using some kind of token in some kind of form. And the newest way is actually using mobile device as your second factor, whether SMS or authentications, Google authentication apps, or any other apps. And they also have other two terms. It's called who I am and where we are. And the who I am is using biometric information. Normally only military intelligence, wherever using that kind of things, because it's too expensive, it's not very portable. And where I am is also the fourth factor is coming into play. And a lot of modern technology and the latest network access device have this kind of protections. And we use that with our customer as well. So in general, single facts is not secured. Multi-fact is the way to go. So that's why I want to basically put in the concept there. Now, ransomware. Now, when we talk about ransomware, there's lot of interrelated items. So malware, phishing, social engineering, ransomware, and hackings. And in some term, they are interrelated to each other. Malware basically is intentionally designed software to harm users, whether harm users' computer or your computer software or your user information. Without you knowing it, it's like a Trojan horse, worm, virus, spyware, and ransomware is just one form of that. And it's been there ever since the computer ever invented. Okay, phishing and social engineering, we're all familiar with that. We receive this kind of email, hey, click here. And believe it or not, and phishing is becoming more and more and more complicated. Okay, and it's evolving every single day. And the knowledge you have today, it doesn't mean it's equipped for you for tomorrow's phishing. Okay, so that's just that's one of the phishing. Phishing usually means by some kind of form of intent interperson as some kind of trust entity to send you an email, attachment, a website for you to click on it to validate yourself. Therefore, you're giving away your information. Social engineering is actually a new concept in the way of getting your information. Now, I'm not sure you heard about this kind of things. In China, WeChat is a very popular application for group function, whether it's companies, family, and now criminals are actually using WeChat or WhatsApp to pretend. For example, let's see, we have a group of our network and we helping each others. And some days, and criminal, once they get into this group information, they will actually create a similar group and pretend someone like Ling or Perry and grab a, maybe a butt into the site to say, hey, I just have an accident. I'm in trouble right now. Can you help me a little bit? Or I'm, in jail. I just need $500 to get me out of it. Can you just help me? I pay you back right away. And this is kind of a social engineering for scam as well. And they can using the same thing for getting the password or something. My co-workers actually receive all kind of emails say, hey, this is Ling, they pretend as me. I'm at the customer side for meetings and I need you to do something for me. Can you do this for me, for example? Those are part of social engineering and it becomes more and more real. And it's unbelievable and how many users actually getting entrapped into this. Ransomware is basically software where in fact your computers sometimes sits in days, weeks, and months. The reason they sit on your computer is try to determine how valuable is your information. So usually when ransomware start attacking you, they will demand amount, so whether it's $300, $30,000 or $3 million. The fact the software is exactly the same. They just demand ransom differently based on they can determine how much is your value. Okay. For example, the colonial pipeline ransomware, the demand was $10 million. And for Paris friend, it's $11,000. For home users, they probably ask for $500. The software is exactly the same. They're using other mechanisms to determine how much is the information worth to you. Not worth to them, it's worth to you, okay? And hacking is another way, and try to get into your computers to place this kind of malware into your computer. So all the criminal activities and illegal software is designed to do one thing and one thing only, either getting your trust or getting access to your computers. And therefore, they can place ransomware or Trojan horse or something into your computers, okay? Or getting the information lead to the next attack. So this is actually how ransomware works. The very first step is called information acquisitions. So basically, they try to find ways to get into your computers, whether logins, IDs, passwords, or for you to click on something, or send you a, hey, you just win $100, or we're doing a survey, we give you $20 or something. Something make you to trust this is a free meal, and therefore you will do something for them. And by doing something for them, and sometimes it can be simply by click just to redirect a website or click on graphics or PDF, and therefore they inject something into your computer. Now, when there's something injected into your computer, you think it's going to be a big program. Sometimes it could be a line with a couple of Ks, which what I mean really means it's something simple into your computer. The next time you do touch that computer again, that computer will open itself like a mini browser and download something else to your computers. So a lot of times, the initial attack is undetectable. People think, well, the initial attack is actually detectable. I have antivirus software. Totally wrong. A lot of initial attack is totally undetectable because there's something it's called zero-day attack, which means the using attack techniques has never been used before, or there's no signature for the program is coming to your computer. So therefore, your computer software cannot detect that. Okay. So the first step is to get into your PC using any means, putting a small software on your PC, and then sit there for days, weeks, minutes, hours, however it is, then download the real attack software. Once the attack software is on your computer, what they do is go contact their command center, which is a server hosted somewhere else, and then download a public key, and using their own software, and then encrypt information on your systems. Now, when they encrypt information on your systems, they don't just encrypt my documents. They encrypt anything connected to your computers. Even if you have a backup software, you have a backup device, you back up your information regularly, they will first attack your backup device because they know if they can encrypt your backup device and they encrypt your information, there's no way you can retrieve your information. So if you think I have a backup device, I back up my information all the time, well, think again. Unless your backup device is disconnected with your computer all the time, otherwise they go to your backup device first. So your backup device is only good for one thing. If your computer crash, you can get information back, but in ransomware, it's useless. Okay, so that's a misconcept people have is, well, I got a backup. No, in ransomware it means nothing. Okay, so once they decrypt your computers, you know right away. They give you the first screen, they disable your computers and force you to pay the money to get it to get it back. Now, at that time, you ask yourself, if I cannot get that information back, how much is worth to me, not worth to them? Because they don't really care what they found unless something more important. But otherwise, it's more about how much is worth to you for you to lose that information. If you think you cannot afford to lose that information, then you will pay them to get your back. Another thing I want everybody to be aware is in many cases, even if you paid the full amount, you won't get anything back because the criminal, they grab information, they just run. They don't want anybody to trace them. So the more contact they have with you, the more information they send to you, is more exposed to them. So once they have the information, don't expect they send you something to help you with. That's usually not the case. Any questions so far?
If I have Kaspersky,
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're going to get into prevention, but I just don't want to wait any longer. Is Kaspersky a safe preventative application?
Not 100%. No application today is 100%.
Okay.
So if you think you have 100% protections, no.
Okay, but wait a minute. Kaspersky and its competitors are dramatically better than nothing.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. No, I got that. I think I understand.
Okay. So most of the software, McAfee's and other form of antivirus software, they can detect knowing threats. Okay, but they cannot detect the zero-day threat. Zero-day threat means something has not been used before. The security company does not have a signature for that.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
okay, Ling,
Okay.
you mentioned here on this slide, malicious email attachments.
Yeah.
And I think we should emphasize that almost all attacks start right there.
Yes. That's a lot of attack is starting from there.
So if there's one thing you remember from this excellent presentation, be ultra careful on whatever email attachments you click on. So for example, if you get one, if my email account has been hacked and you get an email from me, you say, oh, Yogi's a good guy, I'm going to click here. But you may not be aware that my email account has been hacked and therefore the email attachment is malicious. So
Yes.
that's the typical sequence of attacks.
Yeah. And another thing I want everybody to be aware is a free Wi-Fi. So we all travel, we go to airport, we go to store. Sometimes we see a Starbucks, we see a McDonald's. There's a free Wi-Fi. We think it's safe. We're just going to use that. Okay. Did you know a good percentage of free Wi-Fi is actually a trap? They get you login, they record every single thing you log in. Now you say, well, it's because encrypt, I don't need to worry about. No, it's they have a different ways to record even just a keystroke. They can use that to determine how long is your password or where you're going to. There's all kind of different ways. They're using that basic information as a social engineering to get to you. So there's no free Wi-Fi. And I never using free Wi-Fi. Even I go to any country, I never ever using free Wi-Fi because for me, free Wi-Fi is the trap. It's the free lunch. And we all know there's no free lunch there.
So if I go to Starbucks and I use free Wi-Fi at Starbucks, is Starbucks a collaborator in that evil world, or is someone doing that without Starbucks permission?
So sometimes you go to Starbucks, you may see two different Starbucks. So one Starbucks is legit, another Starbucks is another guy and parking in front of a Starbucks. I can do that tomorrow morning. I can do that in the next 5 minutes. Create a Wi-Fi, park in front of a Starbucks, pretending to be a Starbucks for you to log in.
If you have a VPN, does that help you any?
Yes or no? It will actually encrypt your information, your traffic, but it will not help you because you still need to log in to get, you still need to authenticate yourself, giving them some information to be able to get on. So they know who you are, right? And once they get on to information, so let's see, I'm the bad guy. I see you log using my free Wi-Fi. You log into Lawyer Bank. And now at least one thing I know, you're using Lawyer Bank. Now I can pretend as a Lawyer Bank call you to help you something. Hey, Yogi, I'm a Lawyer Bank. I know you are a Lawyer Bank customer. You actually log on this day, on this time. We have actually have some concern. Can we verify some information with you? Here, I got you. So these are different ways of social engineering. So if these people think, wow, I have a Wi-Fi, it's safe for me. No, there's other ways they can get to you. And trust me, and normal human beings just won't be able to defend that simply because amount of money they actually involve, they have the top-notch professional helping them. When I talk about top-notch professional, I don't mean just IT people, the psychologists, the mental health professional, they're all in this together, trust me.
So you made a good point about Wi-Fi there, Ling.
Yeah.
Here in Western Canada, we can really protect ourselves from that if we are a Shaw or TELUS customer, because they offer a lot of Wi-Fi hotspots all over the place.
Yeah.
So if we're a customer there, we should set up our device at their website so that we can take advantage of their hotspots.
Yeah, yes, you do. But as I said, I can pretend to be another TELUS parking in front of a Starbucks or parking in front of a Safeway. So you don't know when you get into, so I'm just saying as a precaution, every time you're going to see a free Wi-Fi, you need to understand this risk there. It could be somebody else pretend as them. Now, if let's say you're going to Starbucks, you're going to your own buildings, you're going to your cafeteria, you see a Shaw there all the time, chances they are legit because that's the spot you always go to. But if you go to somewhere else, you've never been there, and you see a Starbucks or you see a Shaw, how do you know it's not real Shaw? That's the point I try to make. Okay, so now we understand how ransomware works, and so now let's talk about prevention and protection. So I'm a small SME, I'm a home user, I have no money, I can't afford to hire Ling. What can I do? So that's the focus I'm today. It's about giving you the knowledge so you can protect yourself, okay? So a couple of things talk about. So prevention and the protection are the basic methods for you to help yourself. So first of all, let's talk about protection. Now, backup, that's the way to protect your information. Now, backup will have a different meaning for different people and using different tool. So one of the tool we look for is having something called rollback capabilities. Okay, so we all, is anybody familiar with Apple time machine concept? Some people do, some people don't. So time machine means you can go back to time with your backup. So let's see if I back up my file every day, and then I have revisions, and I can go back to last week, or I can go back to a month ago. Okay, and you look for backup capabilities with that kind of things. You can go back. So even if they encrypt my file, encrypt my backup file, I can still go back to in time, prior to the impact or attack, I can get my file back. And those are the true backup. Now, just the Windows backup, that's not going to cut it, because when the file is being encrypted, your backup set is also being encrypted. Unless you change your disk in a very disciplined ways. And I know all the home users, nobody ever do that. So backup means nothing. So in my practice and my friends or customers, what I suggest them to use is something called Dropbox. Now they have family editions, they have a business editions. For the family editions, I believe it's something like $16 for the entire family. And for the business editions, I pay something like $200 per account. So what that gives to me is 180 days of rewind. So I can go back to the same file, but 100 days ago, and using a self-service model. So you basically look for any kind of backup softwares with that kind of capabilities. And if the software does not offer that kind of capabilities, you know, in ransomware case, it's not going to be able to help you. Okay. The next method is prevention. So basically, we understand now how viruses come to us. I basically offer you a couple of suggestions for you to not getting in trouble, not getting ransomware. So this is something I tell my customers all the time. Ransomware is a part of life. You're going to get it at some point. The only question is when, whether tomorrow morning, next week, next month, or next year, you're going to have it. Everyone's going to have it. It doesn't matter you're an IT professional, you are the careful person, you're still going to get it. Okay, so take that as assumption. So there are a few ways we can help ourselves. So for example, I have a designated PCs. When I need to do my research, or if I go to sites I don't know about, I use that dedicated PCs. So if I get in ransomware on a PC, big deal. I just do the reinstall. It's not a big deal for me. Any questions on that one? That's a key part. It's having a dedicated PC or browser do things you're questionable. For example, I need to do some research. I need to go online, search all the informations, and I'm going to click all the links that's relevant. And if a ransomware come to me, if I get it, it's not a big deal because I can refresh that PC, get rid of everything, not impact my personal file. So you want to have that kind of capabilities. So I using basically my iPad to do that because iPad have a very good protection for that. Okay, so that's a part of a prevention capabilities.
Could you say that last bit again, Ling, please, Tom?
Okay, so use a dedicated PC or browser for questionable activities. So if let's say you're going to, dating site, you're going to something else, which is questionable, go to unreliable source. So when we go to internet, we go to reliable source or unreliable source. If we go to federal government site, we know the URL, we go to the bank, those are probably reliable sites. But if I go to research, I go to a blog site, WordPress site, even the site is legit. You don't know if that site has been hacked by somebody else, have something called injection code. Injection codes means as hackers, I can go to other people's website, inject harmful codes inside in the legit website. And if you go to browse that website, you may get that code into your computers. So using computers to do this kind of activities, even if you get a ransomware on the computers, it's not a big deal. It's not going to impact your personal file.
So I have a cell phone that I use for general searching, and I have my desktop PC that I do for my banking and business stuff. Is if I get a malware or something on my cell phone, is my dedicated PC at risk?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Do you put your email on the dedicated one or on your other computer?
I've got two email addresses, so I tend to keep one for the cell phone and the other one for the desktop.
Yeah. So if you only have one device, then what you can do is you can using one browser for questionable device, questionable activities, or let's just call general use activities. And then use one browser for banking only, nothing else. And that browser never go anywhere else. That will actually provide a layer of protection because most of the browser runs in something called virtual instance. They don't talk to each other. So that's the minimum protection you want to have. The last thing you want is a one browser, you go into general browsing and then you jump into your bank and then people can do something called crossing sites scripting, which means they can get information from other, other browser.
So
Okay.
let's talk about questionable activity for 1 minute here. And one example of that is downloading a movie from a site that's posted it on the web, but that it's a pirate movie. Sometimes you can pick up malware there. If any of you are using a service like Napster still, you can pick up lots of malware there too. I don't know if anybody in this crowd is surfing the dark web with a browser called Tor, but that's another good way to pick up lots of malware if you don't know what you're doing.
Oh yeah. Even you go to legit site, sometimes when you download a legit site and they have a packed, malware inside there.
Right, and if your browser or your antivirus is warning you that you're at a questionable site, listen to that direction on the web page and go away from there.
Yeah.
And if you absolutely have to look at that page, then do what Ling said, and that is use a dedicated PC just for that activity.
So like Yogi suggested earlier, if it's a questionable emails, delete them right away. So don't even look at. Sometimes in many instances, when you look at the email, even just click on the attachment, you got an infection on your machines. That's how quick it is. Because a lot of modern browsers, they have something called inline view or preview. By doing the preview, you already actually download the code, the scripting. Now, why people do that? Because it's convenient, right? And a lot of times when you do in-email browsing, and you can preview graphics, you can preview attachment. By doing the preview, you already actually executing the software. And Word document, Excel documents, PDFs, graphics, GIFs, and those are the most used as childrenware to carry virus. And sometimes you receive an email from someone saying, hey, here's your invoice. We just sent you invoice. Why don't you pay this? Don't even listen to it because likely there's something inside that PDF is going to inject to your machines. Okay, so delete that. And yeah, go ahead. Someone have a question.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that, if there's no service out there, any sort of way of surfing the network and whatnot, is there not a possibility of somebody creating software that would be secure, that we could all sort of really rely on?
Well,
or is that impossible?
No, because those people are smart enough. Anytime it's a news secure, they will find a way because they know if everybody is talking about this is a secure browser, they find a way to attach it, attack that one.
Yeah.
So the
really,
assumption.
White collar crime then is really to be able to monitor it and to reduce it and to attack white collar crime on the internet.
So now let's talk about
impossible.
Yeah, let's talk about white collar crime. The ransomware business, it's not used to be the one writes a code is going to attack you anymore. They are professional, white collar professional. They have a reputable jobs. They have a very high position job who are creating ransomware. These people are not attacking you at all. They are just contributing their professional knowledge, writing a software for someone else. In fact, Microsoft even said a lot of attack it's people, it could be internal knowledge. For example, people working for Microsoft will have that kind of knowledge of vulnerabilities of certain software.
You
Now,
were,
so,
you were saying that some of the big attacks could be inside jobs.
oh yeah, 100%. So they are professionals who creates ransomware. Not necessarily these people is going to attack you. So therefore, they don't feel duty. They just make money. It's like a consultants, right? I'm a IT consulting. I can provide my security advice for someone, but someone can use some advice for something else. So the people who writes ransomware code may not even know they're writing a ransomware code. They could be writing something for a security company for detections, right? To find vulnerabilities, and the guy writes ransomware code can use that detector software, inject a capability for something else. So it's not the same guy who is writing the code that's going to touch you, not like old days. So, you know, Tom, it's not a white coat crime anymore. It's a ecosystem now, right? In a way, it's more like an ecosystem. So people working inside may not understand what they're doing.
Wow, scary.
Oh yeah, it
It's all
is.
very scary shit, you know.
Oh yeah, it is. And in some cases, the state is behind it.
Mm.
Okay.
When you say state, we're talking about Russia and China and that sort of thing?
Russia, China, and CIA.
Yeah.
Why would CIA be behind it? I mean, you know, I'm asking a naive question perhaps, but
Because that's the way you can get other people's information. Now, ransomware doesn't necessarily mean you have to getting for money. It can be used as a spyware.
Is it what?
It's a spyware.
Oh, spyware.
Yeah. Right? It's to getting the capabilities, to getting knowing what you're doing, to pay attention to friendly people, to monitoring other people's. It could be Canadian federal government, who knows?
So the difference between many of the things that you're talking about and what Amazon does to monitor clicks, to know what it is that you are buying so they can know what you might want to buy next, it's a pretty thin line between what is being done to simply advance commercial interests versus taking money out of your bank account.
Exactly. The capability is the same. It's end up who is doing it.
Can I ask a question? Sorry.
So this is as much a part of the digital economy as the good things that we look for. This is sort of the price that we pay because we feel that the sharing of our data intentionally with those that provide educational and health and banking and good, this is the price that we pay because we think there are good things that are going to come out of the digital economy.
Yeah, it's the same way as we invent a car. People can drive in for convenience, but they can use a car to hit people.
Got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
As we've been focusing on computers up till now. What about hacking into smart devices that may be around? I mean, how does that work?
People are already doing it. In fact, I only use an iOS device. I don't even use Android at all for the same reason, because iOS tends to have a better security because the single vendor software and everything has to be approved by Apple, where iOS, you can download software from anywhere. So, Android, you can download software from anywhere. So I stay away from Android for the exactly same reason.
What about refrigerators and other appliances now that are attached to Wi-Fi in the house?
Yes, this is actually a case a couple of years ago, last year, a year ago. We all know Linksys, right? You know, basically consumer appliance, and somebody actually hacking into their firmware and basically they inject virus into firmware and using home appliance to either do detections or for something else, as a DDoS denied service attack, or using something else. So yeah, people can use this for almost everything and anything and everything. It's very scary war. If you have the knowledge as I am, you will be more scary than I'm actually very scared. I mean, in that war, because that's what I do for a living, right?
It's interesting. I just converted over to TELUS, and TELUS says, okay, we've got this one service, where you can put all your passwords into one, which is for most people. Like I must have 200 passwords, and I think, okay, this is really appealing. I'm going to move everything over to this one service that TELUS provides. Is that a good idea or not?
So if you put on your password on internet, means that's another ways for other people to attack it.
Mm-hmm.
So I also using password server to protect our own password, not only for me, for the people working here. But we host it internally, right?
Yeah. So, Tom, I think keeping all your passwords the way you are, carefully manage them, is a very good thing.
Yes.
Most people become overwhelmed by the number of passwords they have and start to use the same password everywhere.
Yeah.
That's hugely dangerous.
That's
right. You'll notice that there was an attack recently on CRA where someone was just testing user IDs and passwords that they had in the hopes that the password the person used wherever they got the password from was also being used at CRA.
Oh yeah. So I work with a lot of different companies. I can tell you the easiest way to get a password is pretend to be a janitor, going to buildings, try to mac up, do some cleaning, and then flip keyboards. Usually find a yellow stick with a password and the keyboard.
I like stories, and I like to tell stories.
Oh yeah, I can tell you,
You're giving me 100 ideas for stories here today. I must say it's.
All right, so let's move on. We already spent some time. So keep your software up to date. That's definitely things you need to do. You almost need to do that on a regular basis, not just Windows, Mac, but also other software. Make sure you keep up to date and make sure you're using the latest version. If the software is being retired, ditch it, get something new. Okay, so let's move on. Also using commercial software. So especially if you have a antivirus software, don't using free software. And again, no free lunch. Free software usually means they are not as good as commercial software. So buy the commercial software, pay that $20 a year, a month, wherever it is, buy the commercial software. Now, this also important thing for you to consider is when you buy commercial software for antivirus or anti-malware, it's not about just the software. It's also the capability to alert you if they find something, okay? If can find something but not let you know, it's actually dangerous. So we have a software we use with our own customer. It's basically a real-time alert. So anytime we detect malware or ransoms, and it comes to alert to our phone. So I have a lot of customers. I have many PCs, servers, home office machines on our software. Anytime if something dangerous, we receive a real-time alert on our PC. So on my phone, I can call my customer. In fact, I can even remotely shut down that machine. So the very first things when you detect malware is to shut down the machine, take it offline. And if you don't do that, you just let the most spread to elsewhere. So, and definitely you look for the capabilities. Okay. And there's also a lot of tool there. Now, people talk about using strong password and put a password into password safe. My suggestion to you is don't rely on password, rely on second factor. Any way possible using two-factor authentication. And also look at your PC, your office machines. Anytime you have online connectors, people can remote logging remotely or something else. Do not using password for that entry point, using two factors. So for us, for example, we have a lot of machines accessible by internet. People can log in remotely. People like I remotely log into my own PCs from anywhere. And we only allow people to use that when we have a second factor authentication. Second factor means you have to using something like SMS or something you have to approve
Email,
when you
yeah.
log in. In fact, once we're using second factors, we actually see people try to attack our accounts all the time. We actually see people successfully log into our PC, try to ask for authentication on our device. Now we can track where they are. And I see logging this kind of attack from Germany, Iran, from Turkey, from United States, from anywhere and everywhere. Okay.
I just got an email or a LinkedIn message from Russia asking if I would have provided advance notice that they would have been at the session. And I indicated, well, we're recording it and the session will be posted. So Russia's interested in what you're having to say.
Well, they probably want to know. Anyway, so
I've got a
I
son-in-law
would strongly recommend, if you have a system online, you need to have a remote access. Immediately look at two-factor authentication capabilities. Okay, so two-factor authentication provides you two things. A is to make sure strong security is in place for you to have a remote access. The second thing is to see who access your machines and from where.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you say, well, I have a Microsoft remote access, guess what? Microsoft remote access really don't give you that capabilities. Okay, so let's move on. So strong password protections, two factors, and using password keeper is also a good idea. Tom, like you said, using a strong password protector and a keeping safe place is much better than using one password all over the place.
Okay.
So,
are you familiar with LinkedIn or with LastPass, pardon me?
what do you mean linking?
LastPass as a password protector?
No, I using linking two-factor authentication. So when I log in from Entrust machine, Entrust result, it asks for two-factor authentication. Now this is a lot of new concepts. This new technology come out. Basically, we ditch all the password, and there are facial recognition. There's Microsoft here. Hello. There's a lot of things. But what the things I'm talking about are the regular people use every single day. Okay, and also, and a very good practice is ask your friend what they use. Okay, exchange information with your friends, and that's actually very good practice. So you can actually find out who gets attacked, how they get attacked, so you can learn from their mistakes. Okay, and then the next point I want to emphasize again is anywhere possible using two-factor instead of a single password. It doesn't matter how strong is your password, or you just changed it yesterday. It's no good. You got to using two-factor authentication. Okay, and the next one is called zero trust. Basically means trust nobody. If someone's pretending someone to call you, try to verify them first, okay? Or someone send you an email, say, "Hey Perry, Perry, this is Ling. I'm just got an accident. My wallet is stolen. I need $500 for something. I need $10 to get a ticket or something." Don't believe it. Okay, that's likely it's going to be some kind of attack or hacking. And if that's the case, use your phone, use other means to verify them, and using common sense. Right? If you have any questions, call someone before it's too late. And if you got a family member ask for help, phone them. Okay. And the last one is make sure you make some friends from IT security professional.
Hey, Ling,
Yes.
can you be my friend?
Oh yeah, I'm always your friend.
Good one.
And again, remember what you pay is what you get. In the IT security business, there's absolutely no free lunch there. So that's really concludes what it took a little bit longer than I thought.
Oh, it was great. Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. That was frighteningly insightful.
Yeah. It really is wonderful. And I'm just thinking of the people I know who have been attacked, and there's no logic to why they've been attacked. My lawyer got attacked, and he had to go back and take all his paper and redo it again. And it's just a small law firm in Millwoods in Edmonton.
So simply put it this way, every single my customer in the last couple of years, everyone has been attacked. Every single one of them.
So Tom, your lawyer's attack is not random, okay? The attackers poke at all the ports on the internet all the time. So very clearly, your lawyer was not engaged in adequate defenses on his firewall at a minimum.
Yeah.
And secondly, one of his staff clicked on something like Ling told us not to do. It's one of those two things that's most likely what happened to your lawyer.
Yeah. Another thing is very dangerous is bring USB from another place, from your friend's computer, copy a file and move that file onto your computer. And I see many attacks coming from that way.
USB.
Yeah.
This other one was the John Howard Society, and they got attacked in the city, right?
Yeah.
And then the University of Calgary got attacked. Of course, been attacked 3 or 4 times. We don't hear about these things too much,
Okay, so
yeah.
The John Howard Society is an example of a social service organization. And what tends to happen there is they're so committed to their social service, they don't pay enough attention to their own infrastructure, either their computers or their carpet or window washing or whatever. They don't spend enough on their own infrastructure. And anything that we can do to say to social service organizations, look after yourself better.
Yeah. It's a human nature. If we're not sick, we're never going to see a doctor. It's a human nature.
So the University of Calgary example you gave, Tom, to me, that's just total incompetence.
Yeah.
There was no reason for that.
Yeah.
So
I'm just dying to get to the end of this. I'm not meaning it that way. I mean, I at the end of this conversation, I got to phone my daughter and her husband because they have really vulnerable positions in Ontario that could be attacked easily and destroy them. They could.
So let me emphasize this way: attack is a part of life. You will get it. But if not tomorrow morning, maybe next week in the morning, maybe next month, maybe next year. So prevention and the protection is the things you need to worry about. So assume you're going to attack. Ask yourself a question. If your computer got attacked or locked by tomorrow morning, can you afford everything on that computer you're going to get lost? If not, find a way to protect the information. So by protect means you have to have a backup. You have to have the capabilities to roll it back to last week, last month, last year. Now, here's another trick I use myself, okay? So I do paper, I do digitize all my paper records, and I use in QuickBooks to record my accounting file. So I assume some days I will get attacked. So what I do is every time I have receipts, I scan them, and I put in a box like this. Basically, I have a jar on my back. I just put the paper inside there. I keep it for 6 months. So I assume I get attacked by somewhere, and I go back to 3 months ago, QuickBooks. I can using paper to get back to where I am today.
Wow.
That's a little trick. So I'm prepared for that, right? And that's the way you have to think about yourself. In the insecurity world, it's all about assess the risk and mitigate the risk. So I ask myself, what kind of risk I am? How can I to mitigate the risk? How can I go through this if I get attacked myself? So those are the things you need to really ask yourself to do. And frankly, if you pay a consulting for $200 an hour, and he's going to come give you the exact same advice as I gave to you.
Okay, I want to go to a specific thing. I've got an app which does personal finance, and it's been very successful for me, and it's called Back in Black. And what you do is you enter into this app, uh, all the information about what you spend during the month, 2 months, and then it gives you a pretty accurate description of where your money is going. And then from there on, you can set up budgets and so on and so on. Now, that app is not protected in any way. You know, people download it from the Apple Store. They enter their personal information about, you know, their electricity, their spending at the supermarket, so on and so on.
Yeah.
How can I protect that?
Well, I think you need someone to give you some professional advice on, depends on how your software, where the data is stored, whether it's a local device in the cloud. If it's not in the cloud, Tom, you may want to consider offer as a service, because many software now offering online backup storage for $2 a month, you know, whatever. Personally, I pay probably around 50 different services.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's something you really need to think about. So people think, well, you know, I don't really want to pay online services. Well, you're paying lunch all the time. You buying this, you buying that. Those are cheap things. And it's better than you pay $11,000.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Right? And some organization I involve actually. So all the company I involved with all get attacked, all get a ransomware. They never paid a penny. They can always go back to, you know, where they are. And some of the retrieval are easier. Some of them are more difficult. One organization I involved with took 45 days to actually get back all the information from the backup. Some of them are easy because some of the file have extension. You can tell this is being hacked or being logged. Some of them don't have the indication. So you have to go file by file to verify which one is being logged. So you have the backup capabilities to restore them. But that's really individually. So what I'm trying to do today is give you the concept. So you can start asking yourself the question, am I vulnerable? If I'm vulnerable, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
And then if I'm really vulnerable, who I need as a friend to help me further?
How do you know how far you have to go back to recover?
Sometimes the hack can, you don't know that. I have one instance, a customer have to go back to 30 days.
Yeah.
So you should back up, what, every 30 days or onto a separate disk?
No, I use in Dropbox. Dropbox have something called rewind capability or file revisions. So every time that the file has changed, it will receive save as a copy. So I can go back to Dropbox, the software I use. I say, you know, I want a copy as of May 13th, for example. Right? I can go back 180 days. That's a business edition. I pay $200 a month, not $200 a year. Now you can use in family edition for something like a personal edition for $10. They give you 30 days. So the difference, I would say, you know, why don't you just get a professional edition, right?
It's called Dropbox, right?
That's what I use. I'm sure there's other software out there doing the same thing, but I'm not familiar with.
I had in my bank account, sorry, excuse me.
Hey, Ling, could we shift gears just for a minute? Because we've only got about 15. If you were to talk to the government, and let's say the federal government, or you can talk at the provincial, which is a regulatory body, is there anything that gives you a sense of hope that we can somehow do a better job in I don't know, detecting, sentencing, finding?
No. Period. The answer is no, because you don't know where it's coming from.
Right.
And because internet is open, it's designed to be open for the reason is to survival at a nuclear attack. So that's the intention of internet, right?
I understand, but I do appreciate the fact that colonial attack they were the payment was in Bitcoin, and they were able to recover almost 80% of the Bitcoin. So somehow or another, they were able to find the source or some.
That's because the highest authority in the United States, CIA,
Yeah.
and FBI and some secret agency is involved. And I don't believe Canada have that kind of capabilities. And even if a Canadian government gets attacked, I don't think the US is going to help them, because that way expose their capabilities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So there's no way federal government can regulate this or something else. The only thing they can do is awareness and make sure you actually aware that. But like I said, it's a human nature. People don't pay attention unless they get attacked themselves.
So really, the only security we have is to cut everything, cut all our connections, and go down to southern Argentina and raid
No,
out.
not really, not really. The only safe person is in the grave.
Yeah.
Is in the what? Sorry.
In the grave, dead.
Yeah.
That's the only safe place.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah,
okay, so-
to reinforce that, we've got really good friends and colleagues that are employees of, and today we're not supposed to admit to this, but we do. They're employees of the Chinese central government's foreign affairs department, and they're getting hacked. So
Okay, but
there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
I think,
So-
You know?
I think there, you cannot drive these risks down to zero.
Yeah.
Doing the actions that Ling has recommended dramatically reduces your risk.
Yes. Yes.
So, and what Ling is talking about is quite cheap. It requires a little bit of discipline and a little bit of consistency, but it doesn't require a lot of money. It doesn't require a lot of your time. So it should be doable.
Yeah. It's basically, I focus on DIY. When my parent and I talk about this, I didn't really think, want to, I can come in and say, hey, you need IT consulting services. I come in, charge $200 an hour, and then I can bullshit with you for 5 hours, right? I didn't want to do that. I don't have time to do that. So I want to offer you like the real things you can do yourself.
It's funny, Ling, I have a friend who's into using data for, and we talked a bit about this before, using data to monitor sales conversions in stores. And I was saying to him, what's your security concerns? But his response was that, what they would get is just data that for a minuscule group of people in the world wouldn't really mean that much or be that useful. What would be your response to somebody like that?
So as I mentioned, they're not interested in your data.
Yeah.
The question to ask is, how much is that data worth to you, not to them? If you lose that data tomorrow, how much is that worth to you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this
Well,
is
his data is coming in on a daily basis, so I don't think he's looking at long term. He's looking at immediate data.
What about the data?
assessing.
What about the database itself get attacked?
Mhm.
So if you're using a SQL database on your server, that database itself can be encrypted.
Yeah.
Let's talk about insurance, because the fellow that I mentioned in Stony Plain did talk about having insurance against loss of data.
Yes.
But he couldn't get his $11,000 back. What he could get back is the cost of having his data restored.
Yeah. So yes or no, insurance will cover some, but insurance will never cover the headache, the disruption to the business. And I actually involved with a company with 8,000 employees, and they missed their payroll for two pay period because they couldn't make the payroll. What is the impact for that? How much is that worth?
Doesn't seem to bother the federal government, though, as it relates to their employees with that payroll system that still isn't operating properly.
Well, federal government have a lot of protections, layers of protections. So it's not something they worry about. Right?
Ling, Perry's talking about the fact that they can't seem to figure out how to pay their employees, the different issues from
Their own
cybersecurity.
That's
Yeah,
the,
that was that software they brought in.
that's the Phoenix software.
Yeah,
Phoenix,
definitely
yeah,
software.
yeah.
So
enough.
really, I'm done with my talking. Really, what I offer you something is to thinking about, and it's something you can do yourself to protect yourself as minimum.
Thank you.
I think I mean, you know, we sit in on a session like this where we talk about a threat that's existential for small businesses, and we're all vulnerable in the digital age to something that, you know, we weren't educated about in school, and our parents didn't give us the tools, because this is a brand new world we're entering into. It seems to me ultimately the best thing that can be done to reduce the profitability of ransomware is to make it more difficult for the criminals to behave. And that means
Yes.
having a better educated user. So we all need to be, if we're going to play the game, if we're going to be in the digital economy and we're going to use the cell phone and the desktop, we need to acquaint our children, and our schools need to do the job. And we all need to be involved in the fact that you need to take personal responsibility, which is called a driver's license when you get a car. We need to teach our kids, and our school systems need to teach our kids to become better citizens of the digital economy.
Like I said, human natures,
Yeah.
people don't pay attention to it unless they get a personal attacks. So just to give you some information, last year there was one wave of ransomware came out, and the guy who created a ransomware or made an attack made something like $30 million in 30 days.
Yeah. But did he go to jail? That was the other thing I was hearing about, is the prosecution of people that have gotten caught. What they've been doing is when they catch them, they turn them. So they then become informers. And that's what they did with that huge attack in the United States. It took, what, the FBI was involved with Australia for how many years?
Trust
me, they
yeah.
got inside the system,
Yeah.
and that was how they beat them. Well, that was good news to have
So
such.
let me tell you this: if a Canadian government gets hold with one of this guy, they probably will hire him.
Yeah, that's my point. That's my point. That's what they've been doing.
Yeah.
There's this McAfee guy who just got committed suicide.
Yeah.
There's another story, you know, like this guy.
How do you know he's suicide? He is not be suicide.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that other fellow from who had the sex change.
So
change.
he is not being, he is suicide the day just after he is going to be transferred back to United States.
Yeah, exactly.
And McAfee actually openly said, if you ever transfer me back to United States, I'm going to open all the secret for you.
Yeah. And he could have been involved in all of this stuff, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, Bill Gates formerly, you know, he made a joke on, let's make the virus software and then we can sell them antivirus software.
Mm.
Well, this has been superb. Yogi, you know, I formally asked you if you'd sit in on this to be sure that we've got someone who can ask the right questions of Ling. Ling, you've done a spectacular job, both in being
really,
prepared and at touching, you know, almost every angle of what we need. And you've scared us enough to make sure that, you know, we go back and fix our passwords. And, you know, I've already sent a note out to my security guy to do a few things. And Yogi, are there any concluding comments or observations that you want to make?
Well, I like what Ling has said is that there's the number one action has to do with our behavior. And many of these emails are cleverly worded to entice us to click somewhere. And we have to resist that temptation. That's really our number one action item, as Ling has encouraged us to. The second one has to do with best practices around passwords. And Ling has showed us that table. That's essentially what the table says, is the password should consist of 12 characters, maybe 13 if you want to be safe. And it has to have uppercase character, lowercase characters, numbers, and special characters.
Yeah.
So what that means in the fact that many of you are using a soft keyboard on an iPhone or an Android device is you should start with the uppercase characters, then go to the lowercase characters, then switch to the numeric keyboard, and then use the special characters, and then use the numbers.
I'm
that-
comforted because I don't want to give away any secrets, but that's exactly how I've configured my password. But what I have not been good at is changing it. I've been
So-
using the same one everywhere, and I think
Right,
I'm going to leave this today and I'm going to start changing that.
right.
I'll
So,
pick out some routine.
okay, so what I did there is I gave you the minimum hassle way to manage the longest passwords.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
And
the next
also,
action-
yeah,
next action, exactly what you just said, Perry, is use a different password everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, as Todd said, I've got way too many, sorry, Tom said, I've got way too many passwords. So you have to have a password manager of some kind. And Ling mentioned the one he uses. So
Yeah.
think about implementing that.
yeah.
Yeah, well, just a very simple software that gives me my password. So I have to log into it. Then I go to whatever it is that I'm trying to log into, and it gives me my password.
Okay.
So if you're
But-
using password, cloud-based password, make sure the password protects, whether it's a password server or something, using
Yeah.
two-factor authentication, not using
Okay.
single password. So using
Okay.
password to protect the password, that's a no.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just
so
a quick
all right,
question.
so that's the next point, Ling, thank you. The banks expect two
Two-factor,
factor
yeah.
authentication.
Mhm.
If there are any other websites that you deal with that offer it to you as an option,
Almost every website offer that, but you have to enable yourself. So
Right.
LinkedIn, Facebook, pretty much every Amazon, eBay, and almost every site you go to today have a two-factor authentication, but it's not enabled by default. You have to enable them yourself.
thank you.
Right.
So that's the action item. Wherever there is two-factor authentication available, use it.
So my rule is if this site does not offer two-factor authentication, I will not even go there.
Good.
Okay,
Okay,
for a
quick
wrap
question,
up,
please. Quick
to
question,
wrap
please.
up, we wrap up with thank yous, and I
Can we-
discussed that to Ling.
Barry, can I just ask a really quick question, very important. I get my bank account, I come across an item on the bank account that doesn't look right, and I can't trace it, and it's like $39. Now, my imagination then instantly goes to, oh, if they're taking 39, are they taking $39 a month? And do these people operate like that? Do they take little bits of money from people who don't know what they're doing?
Correct.
All
That's
the time.
a
all the
well-known
time.
scam.
Yeah.
So you need to have a conversation with your bank, Tom, if you're convinced that's phony.
Yeah.
Tom, I had that happen to me, and the code was PayPal. It was close to PayPal, and it was taking $5. I've also been phished twice by TD with an account that the image was perfect. It looked exactly like a TD screen. And called for my password. That was my first mistake. That cost me $1,000 7 days in a row. I got my money back.
Yeah.
But you want to talk about how much courage they had. The only parties in the world that knew that I had been phished were TD and me and the hacker. I got a phone call the next day from TD security verifying that I was satisfied and that all was now well, and wanted to verify my password.
Yeah.
And I knew damn well that was not TD, that had to be the hacker.
Okay.
That's
One more-
the
one-
goal they had.
One more tips for you guys. When you receive a phone call from TD, whoever it is,
Yeah.
ask them who you are. I call you back.
Yeah.
You never talk to anything when they call you.
Yeah.
You call them, then you discuss with them.
And if they give you a phone number, that phone number is busy. It is going to be busy forever because there is no one at the end of that line.
No. If they give me a phone number, I actually go to their website. I never using the phone number they offer to me. I
Yeah.
say who you are. If you are TD security,
Yeah.
I go to TD Bank to find that phone number and I will call you.
You've seen these ads, say, and I'm getting on in a few years here, and it's, you know, insurance, cheaper. So I phoned this people and I said, okay, yeah, I'm older, I need insurance, and I've got insurance for life insurance and stuff like that, but it's really expensive as you get older, you know. And I went and phoned these people and I said, and this guy came back, oh yeah, we can give you insurance for this and this and this. And I said, well, I'll think about it. So anyway, they kept calling me, but every time they called me from a different phone number. All of this, I thought, well, you bloody crooks, you know.
Okay, Tom, we're on the clock, so I
I've got to
definitely.
say goodbye, so it's been fun.
That's a great
I'll
And
song.
to wrap up, I want to highlight
Bye,
what
everyone.
we're going to be doing on the 16th. There will be no session next week.
Okay.
There will be a session on the 16th of July on human resource management. I've got a really good presenter. I've got a good moderator, and I have a panel. Human resource management will be the topic. Things like how do we get the workforce back after COVID? And other is how the digital economy is changing the nature of work dramatically. There are a number of features that I need you guys there to probe and push and use your imagination on how to make this an exciting session. I think it's going to be a good one. So,
Well, that's a really good subject.
so as I say, no session next week. You got that, Claire? And that's what, the second of July? But there will be one on the 9th of July, and there'll be one on the 16th. So thanks, guys, very, very much.
Thank you, Barry. Have a good
Eric, can I
holiday.
interrupt just
Thank
very
you,
quickly?
Ling.
Randy,
Bye now.
Did
What was
did
that?
everybody mark down the password manager Ling is using?